Hey guys, it's Lisa with Are You My Cousin? It's Thursday, so it's time for another genealogy chat. And so I am looking forward to spending a little bit of time with you talking today. We've got several things to talk about. Primarily, we're going to talk about city directories. Again, I know I've talked about city directories and using them in our genealogy research in the past, but I've got more reasons that you're going to really want to dig into those city directories and use them in your genealogy research. So if you are just coming in, if you don't mind giving me a thumbs up or maybe post a little comment, say hello, let me know where you're from. That just lets me know that you guys are hearing me and seeing me okay. Sometimes lately the internet's been a little overloaded, and so I've had a little trouble getting on. So I want to make sure everybody can see me and give us a chance to do that. So while we are waiting for folks to join us, I do want to check in and see how everybody's doing with our staying at home. I think most of us these days are staying at home, and it is a time to get a lot of genealogy research done. And if you're like me, I'm very introverted, so staying at home is not an issue, but I do absolutely feel for folks. This has been a tough time, and it's very odd, absolutely, out there, trying to kind of figure out what's going on day to day, and just even trying to remember what day of the week it is sometimes. I will confess, I was almost late to my own Facebook Live today because I lost track of time and lost track of my days. So if you are just joining me, if you will give me a thumbs up and let me know that you guys can hear me and see me okay. I want to make sure everything's going well. Lately, it's been a little sluggish getting live events going, mainly just because there's a lot of demand on the internet in our area right now, and in my own household for that matter. So just want to make sure everybody's seeing everything. Okay, great. We are ready. Yay. Okay, last week, you guys know, if you tuned in, I had Devin Noel Lee from the Family History Fanatics with me, and we had a fabulous talk about downsizing while keeping our family history in mind. Devin has recently written a book about that. We are continuing with the book bundle that we have for that, the special book bundle that Devin is offering special pricing to the Are You My Cousin readers and listeners. And so I will, that is good until that bundle sale goes through Saturday the 4th. So I will get that link into the comment section for you below. But if you have that, if you're like me and you have a lot of things and you keep thinking, I really need to kind of downsize some of my family history collection, definitely go back and listen to that YouTube video, because she gave us some really great tips in that video about how to decide what to keep and what maybe we don't necessarily need to keep. That was a huge eye-opener for me. So I would encourage you to go back and look at that. Otherwise, over at Are You My Cousin, we are just plugging along. I do recognize that the current events are obviously fraying on people's minds and nerves, but I'm going to keep it going. I'm just trying to kind of keep things moving along on the website. So I am going to continue to, excuse me one second. I'm going to continue to post every week. I am going to continue to do our Facebook Lives weekly. So I hope that you will join me, and if nothing else, I can provide a little bit of diversion for our stay-at-home times as we get through all this. So, hey Debbie, thanks for joining us. Debbie's from Big Bear Lake. I got to meet Debbie actually at Roots Tech, so it was a really exciting thing for me to meet somebody who I know reads the website and joins me here most Thursdays. So hey Linda, from Florida. Yay, you're probably having nice weather like I am. And Devin is here from Houston. Devin, I was just talking about you, just your ears were burning because I was telling them about you being here last week and encouraging them to go back and see that Facebook Live if they haven't, and that the book bundle sale is still going on through Saturday. And I guess I should tell you what books are included. It is the Downsizing with Family History in Mind book that Devin wrote, the DNA Q&A that her husband Andy wrote, and then a recipe for writing family history. So if you're interested in writing family history, you absolutely want to check out Devon's book there, because she gives wonderful moving forward with writing our family history. Okay, yes, we have people from Michigan, Ruth from Michigan and Melinda from Buffalo. Yes, Devon, your ears are burning, and Jean from Michigan as well. So guys, thank you so much for joining me today. So what I wanted to talk about today was city directories again. And we have Barbara from Virginia. Hey, I know I haven't seen you since last night. That's right. She was on a talk that I did. So we're going to talk about city directories again. And I'm going to put in a link to a past Facebook Live I did on city directories. But I'm not going to necessarily be repeating what I did. So, and if I do, it's still good to keep being reminded of what we find in city directories. But I want to actually give you more reasons why you want to look at using city directories in your genealogy research. So I am going to share my screen with you guys here. So give me one moment to get that up and going, and we'll do that. And is it going to do it for me? Okay, bear with me, guys. I'm going to do it this way and see if it'll work for me here. There we go. All right, there we go. You should be able to see that. So this is the example we're going to use today, and it is the Southaven, Casco, and Covert city directories. This is out of Michigan. Primarily, it's printed in Southaven, Michigan. It covered the year from 1898 to 1900. And I got to digging into this particular city directory recently and thought I really wanted to show you guys some stuff that's in here, because you might be missing some important points when you're doing your city directory research. If you're going to use city directories and you are simply using them to find your ancestor's name, maybe find what their business is or their occupation is, find where they live, their location, you're missing out on a lot of information that you could potentially find in that city directory. So the very first thing I wanted to show you here is this section in the middle, and you'll see the middle paragraph right here, and I'm going to give you a close-up of that here. So hang on. Oh, it didn't do it. Let me see if I've got it still. No. Okay, whoops, sorry. Well, it didn't have it on there. I didn't have it on there. I thought I had put it in there. But what it says is it tells us exactly what this particular directory is going to cover. So it's telling us that in addition to the sketches of the townships, it's going to cover an alphabetical list of male residents over 17 years of age, all widows, the heads of households, and ladies following any line of business in the townships. This is an important thing that you want to make sure that you understand before you dig into a directory, is who is eligible to actually be listed in that city directory. Okay, who's eligible? And in this case, all male residents over the age of 17. If you are tracking your ancestors year by year through a city directory, or in this case, every 2 years, you can start to get an estimate or a sense of perhaps how old or an individual is. If you know that your ancestor's son, doesn't appear in the census year, next time he doesn't appear in the city directory, the next time he does appear in the city directory, well, then you can start to kind of get a sense of he's probably turned 17 within the last year or two. Therefore, you can do some math and kind of figure out an approximate birth date. And you're not going to get the exact date, but it's going to give you clues, which can then lead you to help the rest of your research going on with that. So definitely make sure you always read that what is included in that city directory. Notice all the widows. So if you see women, they're probably a widow, they're the head of the household, or they are in some type of business. And again, that gives you a little bit more information on your ancestors so that you can then take those clues and keep researching. Okay, guys, the next thing that you want to look at is, let me see if I can get that a little bit bigger for you guys, the late additions or omissions, or any types of errors that have happened. You will typically find these on a page that will be probably right before or right after the listing of the individuals. That's that alphabetical listing. Now this one is actually, if I believe, I got this one from the 1814 Philadelphia City Directory. And I think that's, yes, the 1814 out of Philadelphia. And essentially what this is are people who, for whatever reason, didn't make it onto the regular list. They were either moved in late or they were just missed accidentally. But this is basically all of the additions that need to be added. And then at the bottom, they had one, they discovered an error, and so they were correcting that error from that original printing or when they were typesetting, I guess, the documents. So don't miss this, because you could potentially miss finding your ancestor because they might have been on the late list. And if you're just looking in the main section and you don't find them, you could incorrectly assume they were not there, that they had already left, or maybe they had not arrived to that city. Make sure you're looking at these, because that's going to be very helpful to you. All right, let's see if I can get you. Here we go. Okay, another reason you're going to love city directories. You can find female ancestors in the city directories. Now, we saw that already in that first page from that 1898 one out of Southaven, Michigan. Well, this is actually also a little insert from that same directory. And what it is a listing of societies. So they listed societies in that particular city directory, and I see many that do this. And they will often have a list of the officers and occasionally even a full listing of all the members, depending on, I guess, the size of that society. And so I took this little excerpt out of that particular city directory for Southaven because I wanted you to see what you can find. So you can find things like this first one is the Choral Union. Now, guys, when I did this, I didn't actually realize that the three examples I pulled are all female societies, but it goes to my point. This is a place to find female ancestors. So you have the Choral Society, the Choral Union. We have the Women's Relief Corps. We know when they met. We know where they met. And we look at this, guys. We have all the listing of the officers. We can tell if some have been married at that particular point. Maybe they're not married at that particular point. And we're able to, we at least have a point in time where we can say they were married by this point. They were not married by this point. WCTU is the Women's Christian Temperance Union. Again, listing out all of the officers here. If you happen to find these types of organizations and you happen to find your ancestor listed, think about, don't stop there, think about other records. What records could these organizations have kept themselves? And it's going to take a little digging, but at that point, I would actually probably contact the historical societies locally for that area and say, hey, this is what I have found. Can you help me determine if these records still exist in this area for these groups? So it's a great place to look for that female ancestor. And we are always trying to find female ancestors, I think. And lastly, another one that I wanted to share with you. This is actually, I'll make that a little bit bigger for you too. This is the St. Louis directory. It's from 1840 to 41. And I put this here because I wanted to show you, and I'm going to give you a close-up here in a second. They have in here a sketch of the city of St. Louis. A sketch, in other words, a history of the city and how it was formed and how, why it is where it is, who immigrated there, who started it, why different groups came, the whole experience of why the history of the St. Louis. Let me see if And so by doing that, when you read these sketches, these are great places to find really good information on how things started, founding families, where people came from to settle into an area. Maybe if they left where they left, maybe large numbers left for certain other areas of the country or the state. Maybe it will detail things such as natural disasters that caused a significant shift in the population. These are important aspects of the social history for that area. and that's a great place to find that. It's going to help you understand your ancestor. You guys know I love social history. I use social history a lot in my own research when I'm researching, and this is another place to find it. And it's typically written by locals, so you get that kind of firsthand knowledge of what is important to that community. So let me come back so you guys can see me again and I can see you, and any questions you might have. There we go. I think we're there. Yep. Okay. So what we have there, we have, you want to make sure that you are checking the front matter of the directory. It could be on the front cover, could be on the front title page. So you're checking for who's included, so you can kind of get an idea if they're, when you find somebody listed in the alphabetical listing of residents, it tells you a little bit about them and why they're there. They're listed. You want to look for late admissions. Again, you're going to find that at the beginning or usually at the end. You want to look for, let's see, the societies. Check out the society pages. So the examples I showed you turned out to be female societies, which are fantastic. Again, to prove the point that female ancestors are found in city directories. But you can find everything from the listing of the city officials, the listing of the firefighters, listings of the heads of universities, the heads of the hospitals, the doctors and nurses who worked at the local asylum. I've seen it all, guys. And so it really varies by each one. So just when you find one that pertains to the area and the time period for your ancestor, really dig in, take your time with it, and make sure you understand what it's telling you. And then lastly, make sure you're reading those community histories or community sketches that they include, because you will find some very valuable information. All right, Debbie asked me, where do I find those in the card catalog? Okay, actually, that's a great question, Debbie. So to find city directories, not as hard as you think. So the example I showed you from Southaven, Michigan and the surrounding communities, I actually found that one on Google Books. It was free to read. Google Books has a lot of city directories. And of course, if they're prior to 1923, they're in public domain. And so you can read them for free there. The Philadelphia city directory I showed you, the example out of that, I found on the Internet Archives. And so that's archive.org, and that is, they have quite a few of city directories as well. They have some very old ones. Those Philadelphia ones go back quite a ways, but you can just search for the city that you're looking for and probably have fairly good luck between those two. Absolutely. MyHeritage just released a large number of city directories on their database, and they are US based city directories. Ancestry has them, Find My Past has them, Family Search has them as well. So there are quite a few out there. You could even potentially check the local libraries in that community where your ancestors were. So you have a lot of options there. And for those of you who are not US-based researchers, if you are listening to me from other countries, the concepts apply. Same concepts apply for finding and locating those city directories, as well as researching those city directories. Make sure you know what it's telling you and find out how it's set up. So they absolutely have them. In fact, I know in the UK they go back even further than the US, and I'm assuming the other European countries would as well. But check and see what's available in that area for where you research. Shouldn't all Stacy says, shouldn't they all be in public domain? Yeah, that's a really good question. I hadn't really thought about it. I guess what I'm thinking is when they've been published, then I guess it depends if they've been published privately or not, because usually it's advertising companies. I think that it's private publishers often who, if they do them and they're using advertiser money, that would be considered a private one, I guess. So that's actually a really good question. I am going to have to find out about that. But yes, your local library has city directories. Absolutely, that's a good one. I missed something. Let me back up to the comments. I think I've missed something up here. So you just scroll page 1 of the directory, Debbie. Okay. Devin agrees with me on city directories. Yeah, we all know she loves city directories. Yes, it is hard to get them till the libraries reopen. That's causing us some issues. I know that so much. Oh, Susan, your husband has family in Southaven. With that's a directory. If they were there during that time period, definitely grab it. It's one of my favorites because it had so many great examples of what you can find in those city directories. So let's see. Somebody else. Melinda said you're surprised they actually list first names. Yeah, they most of the ones I see list the first and last name, but occasionally they'll do it by just initial, but usually it's first and last names. And if there's multiple of the same name, they'll use that middle initial, which is really helpful for us. Absolutely. So yeah. And Danya says she can't find her grandparents in the 1940 census, but she did find them in directories, 1939. Yeah, absolutely. It's that brings up a good point. Danya brings up a good point, is that if you can't find your ancestor in that census record, or perhaps you're researching in the time period, 1890, we don't have a federal census that genealogy researchers can use. That city directory acts as a partial substitute. Now, it doesn't give everybody, it doesn't give the children and everything, but it does act as a partial substitute for researching when a census record doesn't exist, or if you're going through in between census years. Because if they were published every year or every 2 years, then they would be you can track that ancestor closer. You don't have to wait every 10 years. You can check their movements through that kind of thing. So yeah, absolutely, Donnie. Thanks for bringing that up. Has anybody else had any great finds when it comes to finding city directories or using city directories? I'm going to pop in that other link real quick while I'm thinking about it to that other YouTube video I did on city directories, so you'll have another one that you can go look at and see. Yeah, so I think there it is. It's coming up. You'll find a little bit more information. I actually walk you through one as well. There we go. Any other information in city directories that could help? Well, actually, yeah, there are, Danya. When it comes to those city directories, I like to find the maps. I go to the map. Most of them will include maps. In fact, Devin just mentioned that. Sometimes you'll find maps of the township. You can find, and actually in that Southaven particular directory, whoever was telling me their husband was in Southaven, that one actually had maps, and those maps were so good. They actually had the names of the residents who lived in or who owned property on that map. So maps are absolutely a good place to go. It gives you a sense of where they were and how they moved around a community. Sometimes you have to infer, you might find them in one address, and as you track them onto in the maps, whether it's the map they include or you just put them on a Google map today to see where they are, you can sort of sometimes track and see, were they kind of making it in the world? Were they moving up the socioeconomic ladder, and that you would find them as you can track them through the census records sometimes and see that happen if you understand the neighborhoods well enough for that neighborhood. So that's a great place to look as well. And to kind of make some of that, you kind of infer what's going on. You can find out people's occupations, because it'll tell, a lot of them will tell you what the occupation was, which could lead you to more records. You can estimate death dates because maybe you're tracking your ancestor along and he's appearing, year after year after year, and all of a sudden he's no longer appearing, but his widow is. Then you've got a fairly narrow year. You've got 1 year or 2 years that you can narrow down a death dates. That's an important piece of information you can kind of pull from a city directory. All right, let's see what else. I know I've got some comments flying over here. Devin said, yes, that the county city directories for the very rural areas are sometimes called rural mail route books. That's a very good point. Thank you, Devin, for bringing that up. So check those rural mail route books. Those can, for those more rural areas, that's what you'll find for them. You will also sometimes find if your ancestor was in a very small town, sometimes what you will find is that their part of the directory will be included in the next town over. So go to the next larger town and see if that small town has been included in that particular city directory as well. So Stacy said when the library reopens, she's going to be using those directories to plot her great-grandmother lived on her own with her parents or with either of her husbands. Absolutely. You can literally just put them on a place on the map, and that's the really great place. Debbie says she tracked her great-grandfather as a printer from a newspaper from New Hampshire, Massachusetts to California. Yeah, that's a really fun one to be able to go that far. Oh yes, you guys all love those maps, don't you? Lou said, asked me again where I found those. Yeah, absolutely. Again, all the major genealogy databases have them, and then Google Books, the Internet Archive has them. You can check some of the archive's public collections. The digital collections will probably have those as well, and again, the local libraries will have those too. Yes, Stacy, will state the occupation, and if that happens, your ancestor could give you an occupation that your ancestor did that actually has its own record sets, and then that might be another jumping off point to go to find a different set of records. So that's a really good one too. Devin says she finds them at the state archives, genealogy societies, genealogy society collections, at public libraries, Ancestry, MyHeritage, Google Books, Internet Archives, all of those. Oh, Devin, thank you. Devin added a link to Dawn's list. That is a good place to find historical directories as well. So she's got the link there. Be sure and grab that, guys. That's a nice place to find some more historical directories as well. So with that, I am going to also add a link in there for you that I wanted to give you. It is to a blog post that I wrote on city directories, so you can be sure and go over there and read more about that. And I've got more examples and different examples too that you can look at. So I try to keep changing them up a bit so that you can find those as you go with that. And so that's what I have today, guys. I really appreciate you guys jumping in today. You have a lot of great questions. You've shared a lot of great information as well. And that's one of the reasons I love doing these, is because you guys do share so much about what you found as well. In fact, Melinda, I think I missed what you had said. You found some very good city photos in the front pages of directories. Absolutely. You can find photos in city directories, kind of some of those city or those towns. And that actually brings up a good point. Don't skip the ads section. So a lot of city directories have ads in them, and they might be small. They might be around the edges or they might be like formal, more like, set out ads like we think. Look at those ads, particularly if your ancestor owned a business. In some of those later city directories, you could potentially find photographs of your ancestors. It's not the first place I would go look for a photograph, but if you're already in that city directory, take that time. It's only a few extra minutes to go through the ads and make sure you're not missing something there that could benefit you as well. Because that's a good, and that's because exactly for that reason, they could appear, or they're just a picture of their business could appear there. So check it out and make sure you're not missing anything. Oh, Terry, it was your first time joining us. Well, thank you so much. I'm glad. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll come back again. I do show up here every Thursday. I recently started doing it at 3 o'clock. That seemed to be a little bit better time for folks to watch. I do put these up for replay up on over on my YouTube channel. So if you would want to watch them again, if you think somebody else would benefit from seeing this, I would love it if you would share for that. And I'll have the link in Facebook too. So feel free to share this out. I'm perfectly happy for that. In fact, would encourage you to do so. All right, guys, that's what I've got for today. And don't forget, Devin's book bundle, the Family History Fanatic book combo, has special pricing for the Are You My Cousin readers and listeners. And that goes through April 4th. And oh, I don't think I put let me give you that link for that. And that's Devin's. It's 3 books. So it's Devin's newest book, the downsizing downsizing with family history in mind. The DNA Q&A book, which is a really good book, guys. I love that one because it answers your DNA questions simply, and that's really what I needed when I got it. And also how to write the recipe to write your family history. So because that's what we're about. You know, we do our research, but we want to make sure we're telling people about it as well. So thanks, Pam. I'm planning on trying to stay safe and healthy. I hope you guys all stay safe, stay healthy. And reach out if you guys need anything or you have another thought about city directories. Feel free to leave a comment or reach out. I would love to hear from you. Okay, so until next Thursday, have a great rest of the week, guys. Bye.